Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Poshan Abhiyan is Government of India's flagship program to improve nutritional outcomes for which of the following sections of the society? Adolescent girls, children, disabled, pregnant women and lactating mothers, senior citizens. The answer to this is 1, 2 and 4 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here in the PIB makes a mention of POSHAN. What does POSHAN stands for? It stands for Prime Minister's overarching scheme for the holistic nutrition. As the very name denotes, it is a scheme to provide nutrition to whom? It includes the adolescent girls, children and the pregnant women and lactating mothers. Basically, this is one of the schemes of the government of India to provide nutrition to these sections of the society. When was this program launched? It was launched in the year 2018 by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on International Women's Day. How will this be implemented? The government of India has multiple schemes and programs. This will reduce the impact of stunting. This will reduce the impact of the imbalance when it comes to the nutrition. However, people must be aware of it. So in order to ensure that people are given the awareness about this program, the entire month of September will be celebrated as Poshan Ma across the country. So what will it do? It will ensure that there is awareness that is given to the people. How? Apart from the government coming up with the program, the NGOs are roped in, public representatives of the local bodies are roped in, state bodies, union territories bodies, social organizations, private, public, all organizations are part of this program so that there is democratic participation process to reduce the impact of nutrition. So more nutritional schemes and programs as envisaged by the government will ultimately reach these sections of the society so that stunting and other issues of nutrition are reduced over a period of time. Now let's look into the next practice question. India entered into reciprocal exchange of logistics agreement with which among the following countries? Japan, Australia, USA, Russia. The answer to this is Russia. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of reciprocal exchange of logistics agreement. What is this agreement all about? Let's understand the first word. What is reciprocal here? We give something to Russia and Russia gives us something back. Let's say we have the aircraft or the naval ships. The naval ships from India might go to Russia for fueling or servicing, or the naval ships from Russia might come to India as well, or their aircraft might also require fueling or servicing. In such a situation, we don't have to make payment immediately, but because we have an agreement, what happens? They can go for refueling, reservicing whenever their naval ships or their aircrafts pass by the services of Indian territorial boundary or the Russian Mediterranean boundary. So basically, the Indian ships or the aircraft can now use the Russian ports or airfields without having to take permission from the Russian authorities or make immediate payments, which is what this article currently goes on to say. Similar to this logistics agreement, we had also signed one of the agreements with United States of America back in the year 2016 called as the Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. Further, this article goes on to say that the two sides, India as well as Russia, are also looking to expand cooperation in Central Asia and the possibility of supplementing bilateral exercises with the trilateral ones and also multilateral ones. As of now, India is interacting with Russia. We have different army naval exercises. We also interact with Central Asian countries. So apart from directly having these bilateral exercises, what we may also have is a trilateral which includes India, Russia and other party, and also multilateral exercises is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements regarding the Central Bureau of Investigation. It operates under the jurisdiction of Ministry of Home Affairs. CBI derives power to investigate from Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of 1946. Director of CBI has been provided security of 2-year tenure by the Lokpal and Lokayukta Act of 2013. Which of the above statements is or incorrect? Since it is asking for the incorrect statement, the answer to this is 1 and 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of Central Bureau of Investigation. When we look into the first statement, it is wrong. Why? Because it does not come under the Ministry of Home Affairs, but instead it falls under the Superintendent of the Ministry of Personnel. The second statement is right because the Central Bureau of Investigation derives its power from the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of 1946. But the third statement is wrong because it is not under the Lokpal and the Lokayukta Act of 2013, but instead it is under the CVC Act of 2003, which is why it is asking for the incorrect statement, and the two incorrect statements are 1 and 3. This article further makes a mention of cognizable offense. What is a cognizable offense? Let's say there is a person who's committed an illegal act. In such a case, the police officers need not have to take the permission of the magistrate to arrest the person. If the person has committed a murder, or he's committed an act of rape, or it is serious in nature, in such a cases the police officers need not have to take the permission from the magistrate. However, if it is a non-cognizable offense, in such a case the police officers, in case they are arresting a person, will have to take the permission from the magistrate. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to South China Sea. It is connecting link between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. It is connected by Taiwan Strait with the East China Sea and by Luzon Strait with the Philippine Sea. The Scarborough Shoal is claimed by Philippines, China and Taiwan. Which of the above statements is or correct? The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of the South China Sea. What is happening in South China Sea? According to China, it believes it has a historical claim. So its historical claim is there is something called as the 9-dash lines, which you can see in the image, which is marked in red. So anything and everything that falls under the 9-dash lines belongs to China, says China. But that is not going to work according to the modern terms. According to the modern terms, where we have United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas. When you look into this law, it clearly says that the states have the right to establish a territorial sea only up to 12 nautical miles. But China starts expanding it. It claims that according to historical mandate, the entire part of South China Sea belongs to China, which is where there is dispute between all the countries in this region. So you have this Scarborough Shoal, which is claimed by Philippines, it is claimed by Taiwan, and it is also claimed by China as well. That is one of the disputes. What is this article speaking about? It speaks about the strategic objective of China, which it is planning to implement from September 1, where in case there are countries, commercial and the military vessels, if they have to pass through the South China Sea, they may have to give the information to the Chinese authorities, whereby this will prevent the free passage of all these vehicles. Until now, we did not have any such restriction, but going forward, China says such information will have to be given to the Chinese authorities, so ultimately bringing an end to the free flow. What will happen to this? What will be the larger ramifications? We have to wait and watch, and we will have more editorials and columns with respect to this issue. We will take them in detail. But as of now, you have to remember this Scarborough Shoal. We have to remember the 9-dash lines and in and around straits in this region. Now let's look into the next practice question. Who among the following Mughal emperors shifted emphasis from illustrated manuscripts to the album and individual portraits? The answer to this is Jahangir. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2019. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is National Mission on Edible Oil and Oil Palm. Annual edible oil demand in India is comparatively high. We have a demand of as much as 25 million tons, but when it comes to India, about 13 million tons is imported from foreign countries. So what is happening? The demand is about 25 million, but about 13 million is being imported from the foreign countries, and as a result, what we have is a deficit or a gap when it comes to the production of oil reserves. So the palm oil accounts about 55% when it comes to the imports that happens. So what is that we realize here? The demand for the oil imports is comparatively more, but the production in India is comparatively less. So we are importing a lot of oil, edible oil from other countries, out of which 55% is palm oil. So the major problem is we are spending too much, we are also importing too much, we are also spending our foreign exchange, and as a result, India has come up with a plan. So what is the plan here? The plan is to reduce the impact of the dependence on the countries. So the government in this particular case has come up with a program called as the National Mission on Edible Oil and Oil Palm. Since we are importing a lot, to cut down on the import and to have our own production, the government of India has come up with this plan. So what is this plan all about? The union government has approved about 11,000 crores for this particular plan, whereby the palm oil production will be increased by about 3 times. So as of now, I did say you, with all the imports that we currently have, about 55% of the imports is in reference to the palm oil. So the government is planning to invest to the entire sector about 11,000 crores, where the palm oil production will be increased by 3 times. The scheme further aims to increase the area of the palm oil production. Basically, as of now, it is about 3.5 lakh hectares where the palm oil production takes place. The government is planning to increase to about 10 lakh hectares by the year 2025 and 2026. To bring this into action, what the government of India also plans to assure is a fixed price to the farmers similar to that of the minimum support price. But this plan also has environmental consequences as well. How? As of now, the government of India is planning to come up with this program in the northeast part of India and Andaman and Nicobar. This is where the problem is, says this article. What is the problem? Whenever you have to come up with this oil production, what you require is huge plantations. So there is an apprehension that the forest areas might be cleared. So we are converting the forest areas into a green desert where we will have a monoculture, which means these forests which until now were acting as the carbon sinks will no more act as the carbon sinks. Why? Because we have new plantation varieties which may not be able to suck and use as the carbon sinks. That is the first disadvantage. When it comes to these plantation types like the palm oil and so on and so forth, they require huge amount of water. These are the water guzzling crops such as palm as well, and they consume about 300 liters of water per tree per day, which means it requires huge amount of water. So this can also result in water scarcity in this region. Followed by this, these plants require huge investments and they also have to wait for a long period of time. So when it comes to the investments, it will only be possible to make these investments from rich farmers. Companies would also be able to make these investments as well, but that cannot happen from the small farmers perspective. So who are the ones who will be able to make the profits? It is only those companies who are into the business of oil exports. Such companies will be able to make the profits at the cost of small farmers, is another concern voiced by the farmers. So what is an alternative to this? The crop is probably best suited in the state of Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, where these crops are already present, and we are already making use of water in all these regions by growing of paddy. So if paddy can be replaced and such crops can be planted, this can be a suitable alternative, says this article. So what is the way forward? Palm is assumed to be an invasive species. So even before it is introduced in a particular region, a survey will have to be conducted, a pilot project should be implemented. What would be the implications on the soil, how it could harm the biodiversity, will it only breed monoculture which is not desirable? All of this, a study will have to be conducted, and only then full implementation of this program will have to be executed, says this article. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.